inequality of complex numbers, right? And all I'm saying is, now this won't make sense until we actually see an example. So you pick out the real parts on the left hand side and you let them equal to the real parts on the right hand side. You pick out the imaginary parts on the left hand side and you let them equal to the imaginary parts on the right hand side. Right, okay, that's not going to make sense until we look at the example. So if you just jot it down, it's going to make more sense when we see an example. Yeah. Okay, are you ready? So, when I say the left hand side and the right hand side, girls, remember the equals divides the left from the right. Okay, so this is the left hand side, this is the right hand side. So what you do is to solve this, the question is solve for x and y. You pick out the real bits on the left. So the real bits have no y's, right? Okay, so it's easy to pick out the real bits, they have no y's. So on the left hand side, pick out the real bit. What's the real bit? X. Isn't it just x? yi is imaginary, right? Yeah, because I'm just showing you where the left side and the right side, where the division is. Okay? So the real bit on the left hand side is x. Then you write the equals. Then you write the real bit on the right hand side. So what's the real bit on the right hand side? 2. Right? So there's half your answer, x equals 2, right? So then you go to the imaginary. So you pick out the imaginary bit on the left-hand side. Which is the imaginary bit on the left-hand side? yi. And you let it equal to the imaginary bit on the right-hand side. What's the imaginary bit on the right-hand side? 3i. There's an I common to each term, isn't there? So you can knock out the i's. So what am I left with? Y is equal to 3. So that's, it doesn't get any easier than that. That's the easiest one, but that's just to show you what I'm about. So you pick out the real on the left, let it equal to the real on the right. That's one sum. The second sum is you pick out the imaginary on the left and you let it equal to the imaginary on the right. That's your second sum. Okay, they get a bit harder than this. Right, this is just to show you what I meant by all that up there. Okay, right, so example 2, are we ready? Can I take it away? So example 2 is read x plus 5i minus 2yi equals 5 minus I. So you pick out the real bits. Right, if there was brackets you'd multiply them out first, but there's no brackets. So if there's brackets to multiply out, you do those first. Right, so once you've all the brackets got rid of, there was no brackets, you pick out the real bits on the left hand side. So remember, this divides the left from the right. So what's the real bits on the left hand side? X, just x, isn't it? Everything else has an I in it. Right, you let that equal to the real bit on the right hand side. What's that? 5. That's great, that's one bit solved, isn't it? Right, then you pick the imaginary bits. Now the imaginary bits are a little bit harder here. Right, so you pick out the imaginary bits on the left hand side. What's that? 5i minus 2yi. There's two bits, isn't there? Right, I always feel like I'm on Geordie Shore with yi. But anyway, right, equals, I don't watch it. Right, on the right hand side, imaginary bits on the right hand side. What's the imaginary bits on the right hand side? Minus I. Now, because they're all the imaginary bits, there should be an I in every single term. What can you do if there's an I in every single term? Knock off the I's. Good, good girl, well done. Right, you can't just knock off that I, right? There's a minus 1 understood to be in front of it, isn't it? So when you knock off the I, there's actually a minus 1 there, right? Okay, that was what I was hoping you'd miss, but you didn't, right? So you go 5 minus 2y equals minus 1. Okay, right. I'm not done yet. What'll I do? Y's on one side, numbers on the other. So move the 5. Minus 2y stays put. Minus 1 is where you want it to be. 5 comes over the wall and becomes what? Minus 5. So you get minus 2y equals minus 6. There's a minus 2 stuck to the y, so divide each side by minus 2. And you'll end up with y is equal to minus 6 divided by minus 2 is a plus 3. Okay, now you're done. You're finished. X is 5, y is 3. Are we okay? Example 3. You ready? No. Sorry? No, not word problems. No, this is the section that people find the hardest out of this whole chapter, right? Because it gets a bit harder. You'll see in a minute we'll end up with simultaneous equations. Okay? But you can't substitute for I. It has to be I squared you substitute for, right? Okay. So you'd never substitute for I because I is not equal to minus 1. Right. Okay, are we good? Example 4, everyone? Or example 3 even. Right, okay. So with example 3, there's brackets on the left hand side. Right. So what have I to do before I start? Multiply into the brackets. You can't deal with brackets, so you have to multiply into the brackets. So multiplying into these brackets, what will I get? 6x plus 9yi plus then 4 minus 6i equals, there's nothing else to multiply, 2 minus 5i. Is that okay? Then, once the brackets are gone, I'm ready to do my real and my imaginary. Okay, so I'm ready to do my real and my imaginary. You don't have to write these words down, but I'm writing them down so you know what I'm doing. So you pick out the real bits on the left hand side. So real bits on left hand side, please. 6x plus 4. That's it on the left hand side equals. So you're onto the equals. Real bits on the right hand side. 2. Right. Solve that. X is on one side, numbers on the other. So 6x equals 2 minus 4 when it comes over, yeah? Okay, so that 6x is equal to minus 2. There's a 6 stuck to the x, so divide each side by 6. And you'll end up with x, that cancels down to minus 1/3. Fractions are fine. Okay, fractions are fine. Okay, and if you wanted to leave it as minus 2 over 6, that's fine too. Right, but it's just if you put it into the calculator, it'll spit out minus 1/3 at you. Okay, so then you pick out the imaginary bits. So the imaginary bits on the left hand side, please. 9yi minus 6i equals what? Minus 5i. So how do you know the imaginary bits? They've all got an I in it. I for imaginary, right? So when you've got the imaginary bits, what can you do? There's an I in every single one of them. And if there isn't, it's because they should be over there. If there's no I in them, they should be over here with the real. Okay, so I'm left with 9y minus 6 equals minus 5. What I do now? Y's on one side, numbers on the other. So leave the 9y. Minus 5 is here already. Minus 6 comes over the wall and becomes a plus 6. So you get 9y is equal to minus 5 plus 6 is 1. So there's a 9 stuck to the y, so divide each side by 9. And you'll get, I'll just put it over here, y is equal to 1/9. Is that okay? Happy with that? Yes. Right, next one. Right, that's 3, so 4. I'll wait a minute, you're still writing. You made me want to look at my watch now. Right, okay. Are we ready? Right, okay, example 4. Right, so what do I do here? What am I to do? Multiply into the brackets. Okay, so what do I get when I multiply into the brackets? 2x, 3xi, 3ix, whatever you want. Okay, right, I'm going to put 3xi because I want the I at the end because I'm going cancelling in a minute. Doesn't matter, not at all. Minus 2y equals 3 plus 6i. Okay, so I'm ready for my real bits now and my imaginary bits. Okay, so real bits, pick out the real bits please. 2x minus 2y equals 3. Now I can't solve that. Why can't I solve that? Because there's an x and there's a y, right? So I can't do anything with that, so I have to leave it for a minute. Imaginary, pick out your imaginary bits. 3xi equals 6i. What I do now? Cancel my i's. So I've ended up with 3x equals 6. What I do now? Divide each side by 3 and you'll end up with x equals 2. Now I'm not done because they told me to solve for x and for y. But if I go back over here, I know what x is, don't I? Yeah, so everywhere I see an x, put in a 2. So it's 2 times 2 minus 2y equals 3. 4 minus 2y equals 3. X is, or y's on one side, numbers on the other. So minus 2y is equal to 3 minus 4. So that's, sorry, more bored. So that's minus 2y equals minus 1. And then there's a minus 2 stuck to the y, so divide each side by minus 2. And you'll end up with y is equal to 1/2. Is that okay? Yes. Right. Now, there's harder ones of these where you end up with simultaneous equations, but I'll save those for tomorrow. I think we need to practice some of them first, okay? So hopefully I'll give you none with simultaneous equations, okay? So we're going to do page 103. You can do numbers 1. I did some of these as examples, so I'm just making sure. What was example 2? Sorry. Yeah, this is for now and for homework. So page 103, numbers 1, number 2, I didn't do number 3. Number 3, so 1, 2, Why does it do this? It was right lovely a minute ago and then it just stops. So 1, look, maybe maybe it's the board, is it? No, I'd say it's the pin. Stupid pin. Now, page 103, so 1, 2, 3, I've done number 4, right? 5, 6, I think I did number 7, 8, 9, I think the other ones end up with simultaneous equations, so we'll leave it at like that. So it's basically 1 to 9 except numbers 4 and 7. Okay? So 1 to 9 except 4 and 7. Sorry? Yeah. I'll just stop recording. Yeah. Okay, so they're on different pages, of course they are. Right, they didn't think this through when they were doing online learning or making this book. They didn't plan for no books in the class. Sorry? Yeah. So, one to 9 except 4 and 7. Because I did 4 and 7 as examples. Okay, I'll put them up in Teams now. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm putting it back. And I'll put up the answers as well. Girls, can we be quiet and just do them? Because you'll get them done and you'll be free tonight, so it's in your interest. And if you need any help, I'm sitting up here to help. Oh, go away. Yeah. Yeah. Someone calling me. There's nothing outside the bracket, so just drop the bracket. Except for the second bracket, multiply in by I. So you'll get yi minus 1i. Okay? So the first bracket just drop them, and second bracket multiplying by I. I'm trying to. Okay, I just recorded all that. Stop. Yeah. I'm on page. Oh, I never stopped recording. Just give me a sec.